So if you guys give us just a few minutes, we'll start at 5:05 if you don't mind. Peter? Yeah. Get up, time to make a move. Don't just sit and listen. Time to come together. Love for one another. Motivate, it lies within you. That's all we're trying to do. Let's make a move. Purpose is trying to get kids together so they can live a positive life. Let's not put them down. We can lift them up. Come together. Love for one another. Baby, it lies within you. That's all we're trying to do. Make a you move, you move. Well, welcome everyone. I hope you were able to hear that. We're still pretty excited about our theme song. Welcome to the Sustainability Within System of Care, this call. If we could go around and let's introduce ourselves. So if you could start with just telling us your name, where you're from, and what you're hoping to get out of the call today.
Well, I guess I could start. This is Sandy Heine. I am in Grants Pass, Oregon, work for Kairos Northwest, which is residential and is school community team, therapeutic foster home, and day treatment. What am I hoping? How to continue on with getting youth involved, getting young adults involved. We're looking at the school community team, and then we've also got the independent living, and we're looking at, having people from the community as well come to our youth move. So
awesome.
Anything that I can gather is what I'm looking for.
Wonderful. Well, you are in the right place. You've got the right information, and I know we've got some amazing youth move chapters and youth engagement specialists that are on with us today that I know don't mind sharing a little bit of their knowledge. So who else do we have on? Thanks, Sandy.
All right. Well, this is Marquita checking in for Youth Move, Georgia.
Hey, Marquita.
Hi.
All right, so what are you hoping to get out of the call today, Marquita?
I'm just trying to sustain myself. Basically, I guess from the call tonight, just trying to make sure that I have, or we have here in Georgia, everything we need to just make this happen.
Gotcha.
This is Sierra from Youth Move Miami. Just interested in hearing what different strategies we all have out there in terms of sustainability.
This is Hannah
from Youth Move New Hampshire, and I think I'm kind of interested in the same thing, listening to other people's strategies for sustainability in their own communities.
This is Cameron Freeman, President of Youth Move North Carolina, and what I'm hoping to get from this conversation is pieces from everyone else's community to know that they're helping to change the world in the sense of sustaining system of care.
Hi, this is Peter from Camden, Youth Move, Camden County Youth Partnership. And I'm just calling just to see what the call is mainly about with sustainability, and if there's anything that I'm doing or not doing, just to kind of get that information to strengthen our group and hopefully pass forward to our youth to move forward.
Hey, this is Noelle with Arkansas Youth News, and I'm on the call. We're just trying to get some more information. Other chapters are doing for sustainability. We have some good things going, but we want to see if there's anything out there that we haven't thought of yet. Also, we're in the process of looking to see if any other chapters out there are putting together conferences, because we'd like to come visit some conferences and see what other chapters are doing in their state.
Awesome. Have we missed anyone? Let's see, we've got Rebecca Summerfield. Hey, Rebecca, Youth Move Wisconsin. She's on our webinar. Is there anyone else that maybe you want to give a shout out from either in the chat box on the webinar, or anybody else that's on the phone that perhaps we missed? All right. All right, we've got somebody typing. We've got Johanna Bergen typing. She's on the chat, and she is taking notes. Thank you so much, Johanna. We all know, I think that sometimes it's hard to talk and to take copious notes as well, so definitely appreciate you for that. Rebecca, when you get a chance, can you tell us what you're hoping to get out of the call? You can just type it right there in the chat box. All right. So is there anyone else that we missed while we've got Rebecca that's typing? And she's from representing Youth Move Wisconsin. All right. Rebecca hopes to learn some strategies from other chapters on what they have tried regarding sustainability. Well, let me tell you guys, we are in the right place. And even before I get started, I just want to say that I'm so glad that everybody has joined us today, and everyone is talking about, they want to hear the different strategies that other chapters are employing in their community. So I'm going to encourage everyone. This is an open dialogue. If you've been on a call with me, you know how we roll. It's a good flow. I'm expecting everyone to chime in on what you're doing with sustainability, what activities and projects you're working on, because this is really about you guys and making sure that you guys have the resources you need to sustain youth voice in your community. So to get started, if you don't know me, my name is Raphael Alexander. I'm the Director of Resource and Development for Youth Move National. I think everyone knows what MOVE stands for, but just to be sure, MOVE stands for Motivating Others Through Voices of Experience. And we are so happy to have you guys on the call with us today. I come to you guys with quite a bit of system of care experience. Actually, probably I started in 2005. So probably almost going on 9 years of system of care experience, and I've had an opportunity to work both at a local level, and then again at a state level, a national level, and an international level. So I come to you guys as a resource. So I'm really happy to be talking with you guys today. And so we'll go ahead and we'll get started. And what I'm really hoping today is that as we continue discussion, that we're all learning from each other, and that we're able to glean some experiences, some experiences from each other. So some of our goals for today is you will learn how Youth Move National really defines sustainability. Although it's quite a work in progress, but we understand that we are only as strong as our chapters. Like, that is my number one role, and Johanna's number one role is to make sure that our chapters are strengthened, that the youth voice, and even outside of our chapters, to make sure that youth voice is strengthened and they have the tools, young people have the tools they need to share their experience and really create system transformation. We'll also hear today about some sustainability tips and some real-life scenarios. I've got some prepared, but I'm really hoping that since we have so many awesome people, in fact, I think I've met most of you guys, there's so many awesome people on the line, really hoping to have that really rich dialogue on what's happening happening within your community. We'll talk a little bit about the nonprofit life cycle, where our chapters fit within that, or where your youth group or youth organization fits with that. And then really want people to walk away identifying where their strengths and opportunities for growth are. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll jump right into sustainability. What is it? Well, Youth Move National defines sustainability as the ability of a Youth Move chapter to continue meeting the needs of youth with lived experience through potentially changing circumstances and sources of support. So we know that we are in a day and age where there's so many changes within system of care, so many changes within the environment with our funding. So sustainability is really being able to be successful and to continue your programming despite all of those changes. And so there's a formula that we'd like you to consider, and that formula is youth-driven leadership plus adaptability plus program capacity equals sustainability. So since you know my style is dialogue, let's have a little bit of a dialogue about this. What in the world does this equation or formula could this possibly mean? Anybody want to take a stab at it?
Repeat the parts of the equation again.
So youth-driven leadership plus adaptability plus program capacity equals sustainability.
Say that one more time.
I forget, you guys are on the webinar. I'm sorry, you guys are definitely going to get this presentation. So it's youth-driven leadership plus adaptability plus program capacity equals sustainability. Come on, Peter, I can hear the wheels turning.
Capacity. How do you spell capacity? I'm just kidding. Equals sustainability. All right.
Let's talk about it a little bit. How do all of those components affect sustainability?
Personally, I think that adaptability is very vital in a sense of sustainability, because first off, every life varies. So in saying that, you never know what young adult you're going to come in contact with. So in saying that, you have to be able to adapt in a sense of youth culture, because especially in a sense of like coming from the perspective of a provider or an adult agency. Not that I'm most definitely 18, but in saying that, it's just, if they don't have the youth culture and they cannot adapt to that young adult, then the sustainability is decreased in the sense of outcome and effectiveness,
I love it. What's your name?
My name is Cameron Freeman. I'm the president of Youth Move North Carolina.
You are on it, Cameron.
Well, thank you.
Anybody else want to take a stab at it?
Okay. Raphael, this is Marquita from Youth Move, Georgia.
Hey.
Okay, youth-driven leadership. Youth-driven leadership is you actually having your youth The adaptability part is being able to actually reach out within their culture to tell their story. Program capacity, having enough of them equals sustainability.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
good.
Okay. I just took a stab at it. I'm like, okay, let me put
That's good. Let's keep stabbing away. I mean, and I don't want to rush through this because, again, like I said, like Youth Move National, and we're only as strong as our young people and our chapters. So we really want to make sure that we're really getting it. Anybody else want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, this is Peter from Camden.
Hey, Peter.
This is, so I'm going to take a stab at it. I know I had notes before and I had written some stuff down, but I'm just going to go for it. So, again,
All right.
with the youth-driven leadership, I always say just giving the youth an opportunity and a chance to kind of, to lead and to be able to feel that, oh, snap, I got online, so now I'm on chat. So just giving them the opportunity to lead and whether it's wherever they're at, wherever their leadership is at, and meeting their needs where they're at, and then helping them grow from that position and, just keep on, as a youth coach, just kind of continue to guide them through that process of leadership. And then just adaptability can probably fall down that same line where, just kind of meeting them where they're at. Some leaders are more extroverts where they're more talkative and they want to do more. And then there might be some of those leaders that kind of like to work behind the scenes and stuff. So kind of work with making sure that it's a balance between those two kinds of leadership. And then just always keeping I always like to use the word consistency. It's just being consistent with the youth, consistent with the program, with the needs, whatever, whether it's the same time, the same place, and just following up with them. So just something to shout out.
I love it. I love it.
This is Noelle with Youth Move Arkansas. One of the things that I've noticed, actually with the, adapting, right now in our state, we're moving systems. We're going into the behavioral health home, and there's going to be 3 different. So our youth, they're trying to adapt to what services are going to be offered for them, what are they going to have to do for themselves, and also some of our older youth that are like actually transitioning into, that college area. They're trying to adapt to how they're going to do things without maybe living at CYS anymore. Like, how are they going to fend for themselves? Who are going to be those support for them? I just see that big thing for a bunch of our youth right now. And our leadership, I want to say right now we have a completely new board, advisory board, and our youth are really, really doing an awesome job on planning street for the winter, and they're doing themselves now. I think step up, them taking it upon themselves to do that. I'm trying to think, what was the third part?
Program capacity.
That's a good question. Yeah, I'll have to think on that one before I say anything about it.
Cool. That was great. I am loving the dialogue. Loving it. I'm going to call Sandy. How about, I heard you were looking to get just kind of how young people can get involved. Do you have any thoughts on the sustainability equation that we've presented?
Well, I was just, I think about our environment here that we have a Youth Move chapter in, and we are working on a stronger youth voice within the organization being set. Residential piece, our organization is really open to the youth voice and want to be family driven. So, so I think the adaptability for us is a slow process because you have staff. I think we do all right with the management piece, but it's the staff that work with the youth day in and out, and so it's converting some of them. And then program capacity for us is we get a pretty good group of Youth Move members, and then they transition out, and a lot of our youth don't live in the area, so they kind of move on. So we try to get them connected with Youth Move Oregon or somewhere else. So we've got this constant turning over of youth. So, but I agree with it, what everybody said as far as three aspects that equal sustainability. It's just meeting all those three things.
Absolutely. Sandy, you said something that was really key and stood out to me, is that there's a constant turnover of young people. How do programs adapt to that?
Well, for us, we have a youth advisory council in the programs. We have a transition age, 2 homes with transition age, and then we have another program for, well, it's 18 and under. And each of those programs have a youth advisory council. So we are constantly recruiting the youth. We have a lot of staff is really supportive anymore about putting that out to the kids that, wow, you've got leadership qualities, we'd love to see involved. We promote we have an application process so that the youth understand. Well, for one, we think it's a good idea for them to learn how to fill out an application, come in for like an interview. We've never turned anyone down, but it's just the process of it all. And that way, too, that they can understand that we take their voice serious and we want them to be involved, and that this is an obligation to be on Youth Move. To a degree, it's an obligation. They have to go back then into their programs and bring back the Youth Move voice. So we have the Youth Advisory Councils, and then usually somebody from those will join Youth Move. But then, like I said, some of these kids, 3 months later, they've moved on, or, especially with the younger ones. The older ones, some of them will stay in the programs longer, but it's a constant turnover of new kids coming in and then going out, which, look at it 2 ways, it's good, because we're being able to touch a lot of youth and young adults. And so hopefully they can carry some of their experience with them forward in their lives. But then for us, trying to keep, we've got this, sometimes we'll have 2 youth, and then next time we'll have 5 youth, and, so it's just, it ebbs and flows. But we have 1, 2, 3 peers that are Youth Move members, of course, and they're constants, and that's honestly the pillars that keep it moving, because the ideas and the projects that we're working on continues on just because of the peers that we have.
Wow, so I've heard Peter, wow, this is like coast to coast. I've heard you, Sandy, in Oregon, and then Peter all the way in New Jersey say pretty much the same thing, that it's really important to have something constant for our young people. That you said, Sandy, you've got kind of some champions that have been with the program that continue to help it grow. And then, Peter, you also talked about being consistent with young people with like time and location and programming, having something that they can rely on. Before we get a little bit deeper into the equation, does anyone else have anything they want to add to it? Because I know turnover is huge. In fact, Youth Move is working on a recruitment guide that kind of details and outlines different recruitment strategies, because that is huge. So I just want to give a little leeway. Does anyone have anything else they want to add to the conversation before we continue
I just
on?
wanted to let everybody know that Shantae, she just entered with me, so she's one of our peers.
Hey, Shantae.
Hi.
From Youth Move North Carolina, what we like to call it active youth engagement. And basically, because not everybody that's going to go through a leadership series is going to actually stay and be engaged with conference call. Is actually going to stay and be engaged with the mission and vision of Youth Move. So in saying that, the ones that do and that are actually there for the events that we have and to actually be engaged in helping your community, those are the ones that are the pillars for us. Like,
Wow.
aside from the advisory team, because the advisory team are the ones that are the most active, which, like the board, and you know what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
And we usually use, like, the people that are on the advisory team, which is, like, myself and some of my coworkers, I should say. We have a team called Team Advocates RS, and basically what we do is when we need to have, like, peers and youth and young adults to go to events for us, we basically use the advisors to reach out to the ones that were active.
Awesome.
Right.
So you said you usually have team advocates. Is it called Team Advocates Are Us? Did I get that right?
Yes, ma'am. I coined the phrase myself.
That's pretty clever. So you got a team of teens and young adults who reach out. Did I hear you say that those that are maybe inactive or active?
We reach out to the active ones. The inactive ones are ones that even after being reached out to probably won't. So in saying
Gotcha.
that, we let them know that there are ways to engage and ways to be included, because it's not hard to show up to an event and share your story at all, or at least not to a person who's been doing it for a while. But in that same sense, if you have a passion for it, the reason I do it is because I have a passion for it. I love it. And in saying that, my passion shows through every soul that I encounter and every person that I can touch. Youth Move North Carolina, we just had a training of trainers in Hot River State Park, which is in North Carolina, and it was a week long. And basically, they left there knowing completely and fully how to implement leadership series and start their own Youth Move chapters in their communities, which would be under Youth Move North Carolina. But since we've already had multiple different chapters under us, in the sense of Orange County, Ferry, there's a bunch.
Wow.
Yes, most definitely. And we
Wow,
like to be the umbrella so that they know that they have resources and a place to look up to, and that their voices can be heard at national level.
I love it. I love it. And so we'll get into the equation here. And I love what everybody is saying because it all falls within sustainability. And I think one of the things that I've struggled with in working in 2 different states and several different communities is just, okay, so how in the world do I put that all together? What is that supposed to look like? And so before we get there, I want to just present Youth Moves, how we define what is sustainability. So we've got the youth-driven leadership. And you will get this presentation, I promise. I forget that everyone's not on the webinar, so I'm going to read pretty slowly so that we can get at it if you guys don't mind. And so youth-driven leadership, we describe it as passionate youth advocates, advocates for youth, and supportive adults who are involved in the decision-making process to meet the needs of youth with lived experience. So I'm going back and I'm looking at the notes that how we described as a group, youth-driven leadership, and we were spot on, which is exciting for me because I know that I'm in the right place with the right group of people, which is awesome. So that's how we described it. It's a passionate group of youth advocates, advocates for youth, supportive adults who are involved in the decision-making process. And all of those leaders, I heard Cameron, you just talked about a little bit about some of the leaders and the trainings that you guys have going on. Ideally, all of those leaders would be really clear on the mission and vision. And not only would they be clear, they'd motivate others to achieve that mission and vision. And they would take decisive action when they're faced with challenges. And they would oversee the successive chapters. So I promise for those who are not in this, I promise you will be getting this presentation so you can really comb through it and kind of get some of the nuggets out that you can apply for your community. When we talk about adaptability, we were spot on yet again. That adaptability is the ability to adjust your resources through changing circumstances and sources of support to meet the need of the chapter. So essentially, and what I hear even on the phone is that creative problem solving is key. Like trying to figure out how to handle, if it's a human resource, like it's an HR thing where you need staff or you need volunteers. Optimistic thinking and strong management practices to leverage those resources. I'm going to ask Daniel Sims, who's been my colleague, pulling the sustainability resources together to kind of talk a little bit about what's happening in the field as it relates to resources and how do we leverage those resources. Daniel, are you there?
Sandy stepped out. What was the question?
So the question, so I have my colleague that's been working with me on the sustainability, Daniel Sims, who's with RDSF Consulting, wanted him to talk a little bit about what's happening in the broader field of nonprofits and fundraising and how we as youth advocates or advocates for youth can really leverage the resources that we have available for our success towards sustainability. So it doesn't look like he's on at the moment, or if he's on mute. If you're talking, Daniel, you're on mute. We can't hear you. But we're going to go.
Can you hear me now? I guess that was what the problem was.
We can hear you.
Perfect. I apologize for that. I lost the calls. I'm in transit, so I knew I was on there. But thanks, guys, for being on tonight. We have been working very, very diligently over the last couple of months to really kind of encapsulate a lot of information we're talking about and that you're going to hear about as we go on about what it means to be a sustainable youth move chapter and all of the things that come with that. I teach in youth organizations similar to Youth Move when I was a teenager in the early 2000s, and it's been very, very exciting and fascinating to see how youth youth-led organizations have grown in influence and in resources and in its reach to reach people with the stories that we have to tell. One of the things that we have talked a lot about is how to apply where Youth Move chapters are to the grand circle of life, for lack of a better term, of nonprofit organizations. And so there's actually something called the nonprofit life cycle that kind of talks about where groups are from the time that they are conceptualized. A group of folks are very excited about a mission or a vision to empower youth or empower youth, a certain sector of the youth population. And so they decide, okay, we need an organization that's going to be an advocate, to be a voice. And so that's kind of that's the first stage. Your newborn, for lack of a better term. It's like all the excitement is there. People are doing the oohs and ahs, but there's still a lot of growth left to do. Now that there's a vision and there's folks that are excited, then other questions start to come up. Okay, where's the money going to come from to help us continue to grow and keep the doors open? How are we going to find other folks who share the same excitement that we do for the vision that we've come up with? Then you get to your place. Trying to think of the best way to describe it. As you start to walk, organizationally speaking, now you have begun to gain followers and influence. You maybe have found your first fundraising funding partner, whether it's an organization or an individual donor who believes in the work that you're doing and has decided to make an investment in you and your vision and your mission, and it's going to help you grow, or at least get to a place where you can become self-sustaining in raising funds. Sam, how many groups on the call, just to kind of give me an idea, have been in existence for less than a year? Okay, none less than a year. How about a year to 3 years?
Less than 3 years, is that what you said?
Yes, that's correct.
Youth Move Georgia. Yeah, one.
Okay.
Youth Move Georgia.
Okay, awesome. Okay, and how about more than 3 years?
If I'm remembering right, Youth Move Kairos is just over 3.
Okay, perfect. So even in your age, there are, you kind of see that y'all are all in very, very different places in your development. If you've been around for a while, more than 3 years, you're kind of in a place where things are starting to settle in. And now you're getting into a place where your vision might expand, or if your systems are changing, your vision may be narrowing to complement the changes in services that are being offered. So as that happens, and as we've been talking about in the adaptability piece, when that kind of happens, you're kind of at a fork in the road. Many organizations are able to, what we call in the sustainability toolkit, which we get to do later, rock on and sustain. So sometimes it takes a very catalytic event, losing people out of your board, a sudden increase in participation that really spurs folks within your organization, or watching in the community, to give more money, more questions about how to integrate the work that you're doing into the community at large. The other fork will sometimes take people down a road where it takes you through a retooling. Let's say that you lose a large number of whatever maybe agreements or very active, very.
Hey, Daniel, you're breaking up. I'm not sure if it's just me. It's really hard to hear.
I'm in a very terrible service area at the moment, so I'm trying to keep it all together. Is it better?
Still breaking up a bit.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep trying to fight through it as best I can until you lose me. There, guys, sorry about that. So, let's say I forgot where we left off. We're after kind of, you broke my train of thought.
So you were talking about the life cycle, the nonprofit life cycle as it applies to youth organizations, and I think you were going to talk a little bit more about just really some solid strategies that you've seen for youth organizations to leverage their resources?
Got it. So one of the things that sets sustainable youth-led organizations apart, those that are still sort of finding their way, is that partnership is usually a very focal part of Blue. So in the community in which we work in, there are a lot of organizations and institutions that are potential partners in the work that you do. So if there's a council, a family, let's say the Youth of South Carolina Family and Council or similar organization in some of the country, a lot of the time a youth move chapter be affiliated with an organization like that. What that does is that it gives that organization usually immediate credibility. And so if that group goes in versus a DC organization from another region, state, or country and tries to sell the exact same presentation to a potential donor about the number of youth that have been served and impacted, the mission, the vision, why it's important to get people involved, a lot of the time donors are looking for a credible relationship that organizations already have. And usually through working through those organizations or other youth organizations and community groups, you begin to share resources. So you might share an office space. You may be able to share cost on materials, travel to conferences and other. It's easier to take in information and disseminate information about the work that you're specifically doing in the community. That saves you a lot of time and energy, and folks are a little more apt to hearing what you have to say, knowing that you have those connections in place. That shows that the steward of your resources, of your time, and it increases the likelihood that you would be a good steward of money or any other types of gifts that you could receive prospective donors. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so for those who didn't hear, because it's extremely hard to hear you, Daniel, and I know that you've got good information. So essentially what Daniel is saying is that, a really solid way to achieve sustainability and to leverage resources are to really leverage those relationships that perhaps are already at the table or that already exist. To take those and really being a good steward of those relationships to, I think I heard Daniel say, I heard you say cost sharing. There's conferences, there are plenty of conferences that come up that our young people want to be a part of, so sharing the cost of that. I've heard also information sharing. So partnerships being really, really key. And Daniel, I'm going to keep moving on because I can't hear you, and I'd rather schedule a different call when we can make sure that we can hear you, because all of the information you're coming with is solid, and I don't want to do you a disservice if we can't hear you. So I'm going to keep going, and so we'll circle back around to partnerships when we get to the lessons learned. And so hopefully, Daniel, you're in a better spot so that you could really come back and talk about partnerships and different strategies that we could all use to have those, to leverage those resources. So the next piece would be program capacity. And I know we as a group, we struggled a little bit with this, but program capacity, we really define it as the resources needed to enhance the mission, strategy, skills, systems, infrastructure, and human resources to improve the outcomes of youth with lived experience. So Daniel talked a little bit about that, and as a group discussion, we talked a little bit about training. making sure that, to achieve those outcomes for young people, that our youth are trained, they receive the proper skills that they need. About a year ago, as we were doing work on the youth peer-to-peer support and trying to identify some of those standards in conversation, some amazing things came up, such as, young people really needing really like technical skills that oftentimes we forget. We're so focused on the mission, so focused on services, that sometimes we forget that just technical skills such as filing or organizing or time management. So making sure, when we say program capacity, making sure that we know that we're managing whatever those, improving and managing those skills, that we can accomplish our goals. And so some of that effectiveness will really be largely determined by the ability of leaders to manage those resources, such as the number of staff, whether that be paid or unpaid. Volunteers are huge. We can't forget volunteers. And, just as a side note, one of my things going into next year is really, as a youth movement, capturing how many volunteers actually work with us and how many hours. If you guys are have the same experience I have, that volunteers are vital to sustainability and really help the work get done. So we already talked about the skill level of individuals. So does anyone have any feedback before we move on? Just a quick second. I know people had different, some were able to hear Daniel, some weren't. So I saw a few people typing in the chat. Did anyone want to add anything before we move on? All right, it's 5:50. We've got about 10 minutes left. We've got about 10 minutes left in the presentation, so I'm going to get to our lessons learned, and hopefully Daniel got into a better spot that he can chime back in when we talk about partnerships, and then we'll have a bit of a discussion, and we'll wrap it up. All right, so sustaining youth voice in systems of care. So like I mentioned, I've been working within system of care at different levels, both at a local, national, and statewide level. I just want to share some lessons that I learned working within system of care. So the first lesson would be starting with the end in mind. What are you hoping to achieve? And then really aiming to connect your purpose and youth activities to a measurable plan. So if there's maybe one person, just want to kind of throw it out. Given our definition of sustainability, we've talked a little bit about, actually we've talked quite a bit about where different communities are in their efforts to build leadership and adaptability and program capacity. Does any one person want to talk about where they are in their journey of sustainability?
This is Peter from Camden. I know I've been on a couple of calls. I don't know which calls I've mentioned, but something that we are definitely working towards in Camden County and New Jersey is to become 100% youth-driven, and that's through training, through through individual trainings, through attending of conferences. There's a Georgetown Institute Leadership Academy that one of our youth graduated from last year, and there's a couple more youth that are attending, that want to attend and participate in that Leadership Academy for the second thing. So just through all those and using those same youth and some of our our more older youth not older youth, but young adults that have kind of are over the age of youth partnership, but still continue to come to youth partnership and mentor some of our youth or use some of their expertise and knowledge. Just connecting all that knowledge together to kind of become 100% youth driven. And we have that goal that we want to achieve by the end of the year. And, I've given the reality of it to our youth that even if we don't meet our goal, we'll evaluate it by the end of the year and then, kind of set a new goal, on what else we need to work on so that we can become 100% youth-driven. So just doing those kind of things, that is where we're at right now in Camden County, New Jersey.
Awesome. So really focused on some of the leadership. Is anyone focused on any sustainability plan or strategic plan or marketing plan or fundraising plan? Done any planning?
Hi, this is Sierra from Youth Move Miami. We
Hey,
have
Sierra.
recently, hi, we've done a, I don't know if any of you are familiar with theory of change logic models, and it's basically a living document about everything and anything that your organization does. And when I'm reading this Start with the End in mind, I just remember the first day we started working on that, we had a technical assistant from the National TA Network who told us the same thing. And
Absolutely.
it's just a great tool because we found ourselves struggling to explain our organization because it's, there's so much that we do sometimes. It's hard to kind of put it all in one place and be able to verbalize it and put it down on paper and see it. So that's a great tool. And through that, we've done some stuff. And right now, we are working on a Youth Move social marketing plan because we've been playing around a lot with some social media and doing some videos. Some of you may have seen it, but we don't really have a structure for that. So that's something we're starting to do. And we create a matrix, and we have a time period, about a year or 6 months, depending. And we have youth at the table, and we sort of create a plan. And it really helps because we're not just doing little activities here and there for fun. You kind of have a bigger goal, and you progress, and you see what community resources can we use, who can we use for this, what ideas do we have, and things like that. So, yeah.
Love it. Love it. Does anyone else have any plans that they've done? I mean, I think that's, towards the end of, as we talk today, I'll talk just a little bit about the sustainability toolkit that we're working on that really dives into some tangible need or tools such as the theory of change. And so I'm just curious, does anyone else have any tools that they've or plans that they've been working on in their communities? Because that's awesome. All right, so we'll go on to the next one. The second lesson was to communicate. Communicate your goals, needs, accomplishments, and limitations to your key partners, supporters, and your community. I found this to be so incredibly key because oftentimes, I mean, it's very difficult to obtain support if your supporters are unaware of what you need. And so I find that to be extremely, extremely important. And even joining a call such as this to really gain some knowledge and understand what other communities are doing to sustain themselves. So if there's any one person that wants to talk about who are their key partners and their community, key partners specifically with their youth.
Hi, this is Sierra from Youth Move again. So our community partners, one thing I want to share, and just because I noticed this wasn't really big in the other organizations that I've met in Georgetown Institute, and I think that we would not be where we are without our community partners. So one of the biggest key leaders are the administrators in the system of care, the adult system. We have youth sitting on every single board. I mean, they're sitting with judges and the school department and the police department, so their voice is really taken into account. And I know that's kind of an issue nationwide with some adult systems that I think we could do better on, but that's one of our key partners. If it wasn't for our system of care adults that allow us a seat at the table, we wouldn't probably be able to achieve our goals the way we have in the past.
That's great.
This is Sandy and Shantae. We have similar experience here in Southern Oregon, and that's with the agency itself is very supportive of Youth Move Kairos, which can also open up avenues for us into other community partners because of their relationships with these community partners, and also in with the schools and the system of care. And we have a system of care combined wrap around, and we have one of the Youth Move members is on that committee as well, and they're just starting to really be more proactive about what that committee is going to do.
Awesome. So my assumption is that everyone on here on the system of care call is either a youth engagement specialist or has some role in system of care. Can I just tell you that system of care, for me, both, I worked citywide, statewide again, was amazing. And so when I was doing it, it's called very different names. It was called, the Interagency Council or the Coordinating Council. It's called several different names in the community, but having youth voice represented at those meetings was so key to the sustainability that we were able to achieve in Youth Move Illinois. Because what it did is the grant itself required community partners to come together. And what it did is gave youth a platform within the structure that was already created. And so that was so key to be able to sit next to, an agency director or a juvenile, a judge, the judge over the juvenile court, or the social marketer who by trade had several connections within the city, or, depending on where you are, key parent supporters, or key youth advocates, having them all in that one space was extremely important. So just want to encourage everyone to continue communicating. When I first started, I was actually very timid because it's very intimidating a little bit to be in a meeting as a young person, as 20 years old, trying to advocate for young people. And then even for young people being at the table with all these, sometimes, suits and ties. But just want to encourage everybody, regardless of what stage, to use that as kind of a launching pad. And that kind of goes into my fourth point, which is building good rapport within individuals outside of your grant community. Using that as a launching pad to determine who has the connections where. If you're trying to do a youth conference and you know that there's someone that's a part of your grant that can link you to someone who has a facility, go for it. Voice the concern, voice the need. And then very shortly, because I know that I'm 2 minutes over, what I found to be really key, if we've got youth engagement specialists on the phone, this was key. One of the, it just really transformed just my perspective, is taking time to learn the different aspects of your SOC grant community and develop those relationships. That was huge. Because, I've been doing this quite a while, as I was saying, and what I find is that oftentimes, as youth engagement specialists or even as project director or family support provider, oftentimes we kind of get stuck in that one area and we forget to learn and to kind of connect with other areas as a part of our community. And so what really helped me is being able to do that and understanding the perspective of someone else. So then if I go into a project directors meeting that, that's open, right? I'm not just busting in there, youth engagement specialist, but it's open to learn and see what the conversation or what the concerns are. I then, working with young people, can then coach my young people and coach myself and figure out a way to present an ask that meets the need of whomever else is on the other side of the table. So I just want to leave you with that. I'll open it up. I know that we're at time. It's 6:03. We'll definitely want to respect your time. Open it up to questions. And before I do that, just want to say be on the lookout for our Rocking the Youth Movement guide to Rockstar Sustainability. That's something that I'm working on in partnership with Daniel Sims that was just on the call. And it really talks about what is sustainability, how does my chapter work, how do I secure funding, and then how do I pull all of these pieces together. And Sierra, I was so glad to hear you talk about the theory of change, because we've included that as a resource, as a part of that toolkit, to really take this and take your activities and to create sustainability within your community. So with that, I recognize that it is 6:04. I so want to respect your time because I know it's 7:04 on the East Coast. If there are any questions, comments, or concerns that you have, please feel free to ask them. If you've got to jump off, totally understand. If you're interested in learning more about sustainability or being a part of our learning opportunities, I'm starting a learning collaborative focused on sustainability so that we can learn and practice all at the same time. Definitely shoot me an email at ralexander@youthmovenational.org. Again, that's ralexander@youthmovenational.org. So with that, I'm going to open the floor up to any questions, comments, or concerns. If you have to go and pick up your kids or make dinner, whatever the case is, please feel free to do that. But for those that have any questions, comments, or concerns, ask away.
Raphael, this is Peter from Camden.
Hey, Peter.
You said some of this information is going to be sent out to us, or will it be on an email or something like that?
Absolutely. So this presentation will be sent to you guys, to everyone, but then also we're working on a guide to sustainability, and there'll be a lot of in-depth information and tools for sustainability that will be published.
Yeah, when we first joined Youth Move, we were getting all these different. We had gotten this binder, and we were getting this information mailed to me, and then I would put in a binder, but then that kind of stopped. So I was thinking maybe that this was something that you guys were doing, kind of to follow up from that.
Absolutely. This is another chapter or another piece of that toolkit. And it's focused specifically on sustainability. Because as I said, we are only as strong as our young people.
Mm-hmm.
All right, with that, my last question is, are all minds clear? Are there any burning questions, comments, or concerns? And that is not a rhetorical question. Are all minds clear?
I'm
Clear.
Okay.
Clear.
Thank you, Raphael.
Thank you, Raphael.
Awesome. All right, thanks, guys.
You have a good night.
All right.